Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Lucy Hartung. I'm the Worldwide Business Development Specialist from AWS. We're very excited to be here talking to you guys about container observability with AWS. And today I have two amazing solution architects, Arun and Steve, with me to really dive in deeper on container observability with AWS. So I'd like to start with a journey that you're very familiar with on your day-to-day job. It started with that you come into the office, you had your morning coffee, nice breakfast, life is all good. Then something happened. And trust me, there's always something goes wrong. So you receive an alarm and then you start thinking what's going on. And after some time pass, maybe there's confusion, maybe you try to figure out where's the issue. And as time passing, you start getting stressed. And that's inevitable, right? We all try to figure out the issue and try to resolve that issue. And then a little bit time pass, you start doing initial investigations, try to figure out issue. And maybe there's a couple of passes that you think you can figure out issue, and then you tried 4 different ways, try to solve the issue, and then none of them worked. So that gave that sense of false hope, leads you to desperation. You really need some help to resolve this issue because the system is still down, things are still broken, and your manager might be paying you and asking you to fix the issue. And after a while, eventually, we get to the root cause. Whether this is 5 minutes, couple hours, or maybe a couple of days, we eventually will figure out what caused the issue and resolve it. And then you gain that sense of accomplishment saying, yeah, I fixed the issue today. And then go back to this relaxing stage as where you started in the morning. Life is all good until the next alarm or next thing broke. So I like to illustrate this as I believe most of you watching this session have a very similar experience. When you try to fix the issue or finding the root cause of the problem, that this full cycle goes. And we're not here to tell you there's magical button that there's no issue is going to resolve every single issue, right? So we're trying to help you with a sets of tools to really help make this loop as quickly as possible. Imagine you coming in and you receive alarm that you know exactly what to do next, what tool sets that you can use to looking for that root cause, looking for that problem, then you might eliminating couple of steps. You don't need to be confused. There's no stress and you know exactly what to do. You can quickly get to resolve the issue and back to your relaxed stage. So the goal here is we're hoping to provide you that two sets and capabilities from AWS to really help you go through that loop as quickly as possible and help you be more satisfied at your job. And then one of the things that we also recognize is in our public survey that these are voice from customers like you that express some of the challenges in deploy workloads and applications in the containers. So what are the top ones, right? Security, complexity, and monitoring. For our session today, we're going to focus on monitoring and observability piece, how you can monitor better, gaining more insights in your container environment on AWS to really provide you that level of detail or data for you to help you resolve issues. A quick overview on what we're offering as container services. I'm not going to dive into each of the services particularly. You feel free to, you can read a lot of information online for what ECS is, what EKS is, but just at a very high level, want to help you understand what are some different options we have, right? For fully managed AWS container services, we have EKS, ECS. And we also have container services that you can host on EC2, also serverless options on AWS Fargate, and as well as a imagery registry for container imageries as well. So these are various different choices for in your container environments and how you can deploy a container workloads to help. All right, let's take a look at what native observability solutions we have. We have Amazon CloudWatch, which integrates with 120 plus AWS services out of the box. And one of the reasons customers choosing our native solutions is because simplicity. Out of the box, you have all these integrations with EKS, ECS, with our container services, with S3, with our database. So very minimum deployments are manual work you need to do to be integrated with other AWS services. And what that means is that really provide you a centralized observability in one spot. And because all the data is in CloudWatch, now you also have end-to-end visibilities into the health of your infrastructure, your systems, as well as your application. And you be able to correlate various different data sets to really surface the insight of what's going on in your environment. For some of our customers are currently using open source, we also have AWS managed option for observability, our managed Prometheus and managed Grafana. And some of the customers asking, hey, why do I need to use AWS managed? And first foremost, the security, these managed services certainly have the AWS security in mind. We want to making sure we provide the security level as AWS as you build on AWS. Integrations, right? As I mentioned, CloudWatch has 120 plus integrations. Prometheus and Grafana also have integrations with AWS services, so that provide additional ease of use for our customers. And then we contribute heavily to the open source communities, so we certainly support customers who currently are open source. And then now we want to dive a little bit deeper in specifically for containers. What have we launched in the past couple years? What landscape has been we introduced in the container observability space? Back in 2019, which is 5 years ago, we introduced a container insight. And then in 2020, we also introduced the managed Prometheus. And then last year, we introduced enhanced container insight, which gave you a lot additional information around the container environments, which we will show more of that in the demo. And then last but not least, also agentless for managed Prometheus. So want to show you guys a journey of what we started with container insight, and then 5 years later, what we end up with some of the additional features in the container observability space. And now I want to level it up to an application layer. This is one of our latest APM features that focus on application health called application signals within CloudWatch. And we all know a lot of you guys migrating workloads or building applications on containers, what needs that layer of visibility to troubleshoot application related issues. So this is essentially we're focusing on how can we surface the best practice for customers to look at application health in the one centralized dashboard, surface application centric metrics such as latency, availability, false and error rates, and be able to help customers to set SLOs and then be able to um, monitoring SLOs from a service level objective perspective. And last but not least, to help you resolve to that root cause quicker. And as I mentioned, when you're building workloads or migrating workloads or applications onto containers, that not only the infrastructure layer information insight is important, also the application layer information is important. So this is where we provide you that end-to-end visibilities between application layer and infrastructure layer to give you a full picture of what's going on in the environment. So with that being said, I would like to transition to today's demo. And we would like to walk you guys through a customer named Mike, how his journey looks like to unlocking observability in a container environment. So take away, Arun.
So much, Lucy. Totally appreciate that. My name is Arun Chandapillai, and today I will walk you through a day in the life of Mike. Mike is a seasoned professional, he's an application owner, and he's pretty cool with what he does. This application that you are seeing right now, the pet clinic, he is the owner of it. And this is a highly visited website. This application is hosted in EKS. So if you check this, this is that cluster. And if I go into that cluster, this cluster is monitored through Amazon CloudWatch Observability. It's a Friday afternoon, and Mike is in office and he's about to step away for lunch. And at that very moment, the pager rang and there was a message in the Slack. A DevOps engineer from the application side called Mike and said that customers are facing difficulty while scheduling visits in this pet clinic. Well, that's not great. Mike decided to take a look into what's happening. Mike started a WebEx meeting and invited the DevOps engineer to start troubleshooting. He logged in to the Amazon Management Console, and from there, he went to CloudWatch. And in CloudWatch, he started looking at application signals because the past week, Mike heard about application signals from Lucy. Mike knows that application signals provides a unified application-centric view of the application, services, dependencies, and all of that with the ability to monitor and triage application health very quickly. Mike navigated to the services dashboard. Now, the services dashboard is something that application signals automatically discovers for you. And on services dashboard, you can create service level objectives or SLO alerts. What did Mike do? Mike know that the issue is with the visit service because the customers are having trouble with that. He checked on it and he says that he found out that there is something unhealthy. He clicked on it and he could see that a service level is getting hammered. He clicked on it and he could see that the SLO attainment, which is supposed to be 95%, is only about 89%. So is way below. And his error budget is also off the roof. He could see that the SLI status is unhealthy and that particular operation, the behind the scenes, what's happening for that operation, he clicked on that. That very moment, application signals took him to the golden signals for any observability, the four golden signals, which is like the total number of requests, the availability, the latency, and the faults and errors. And those four are seen in these three widgets. As Mike was looking at it, he could see that the availability was 100% all the time, but it is dropping. And it is dropping when there is a spike in the requests. What did Mike do? Mike clicked on that point in time drop of availability. And at that moment, application signals essentially focused the traces for that particular point in time. Then Mike clicked on one of those trace IDs to see what is happening. Now application signals provided that entire trace path all the way from client to the backend. As Mike was checking the segments, Mike could see that there is an issue happening at DynamoDB. Mike clicked on the DynamoDB and checked for any known exceptions. Boom. Mike could see that there is an issue with the provisioning throughput for that particular DynamoDB table. This exception literally tells that as the number of requests or the volume increases, the application, the backend is not provisioned enough to handle that kind of a load. Mike was able to find what was happening in just few minutes. The DevOps engineer was quite impressed. Now that Mike, is just a human, he found out that the DevOps engineer is impressed. He wanted to share some additional tips and tricks to the DevOps engineer. And what did Mike do? Mike said to this engineer, hey, do you know one thing? This is the health of your application from an application perspective, all the way from client to the backend. Now, if you want to see the health of the infrastructure, the container that this application is hosted, in this case, they are having issues with the visit service, right? All you have to do is click on the hosted in the particular the particular node, or rather the pod. At that point in time, the application signals, and from that dashboard, Mike is redirected to the Container Insights dashboard. Here, you can see that on your left navigation pane, it selected the cluster and it selected even that pod. In that one single click, you would be able to go and check the health of that particular pod. And that's pretty amazing. As you can rightly see here, we are capturing a ton of metrics around that. Mike then scrolled down and showed that from here, you can select that particular container where it is hosted and then go and check the performance of that by simply clicking View Performance Logs. At this time, Mike was taken directly to CloudWatch Logs Insights. With CloudWatch Logs Insights, Mike can interactively search and analyze the log data. That's pretty cool. Now, what you're seeing here is that log is pre-selected, and all you have to do is run a query on top of it. Mike is not a SQL expert by any means. Mike knew that during reInvent 2023, Amazon CloudWatch announced the use of natural language to generate and update CloudWatch log insights queries. So Mike wanted to show off that to the DevOps engineer. What did he do? Mike went ahead and selected a particular log group, and then whatever query was there, he removed it, and then he went to the query generator and he simply typed, give me the last 10 logs. And then he clicked on generate new query, and fingers crossed, he should be getting the subsequent query right here. It might take a little time, but now there we go. And then Mike clicked on run query, and boom, you are seeing only the last 10 queries. So with this natural language, this interactive way by prompt engineering, that's pretty cool for people like Mike, who does not have kind of a coding or a programming backend. The DevOps engineer thanked Mike for this insight. Then Mike said, hey, wait, I have a few more things to show you. If you want to check patterns, the generative AI capabilities of CloudWatch, what you can do is you can come, select compare off, and then select the log file which with the previous week, apply. As you can see now the compare on is on, and then you run the query again. This time, what is happening is the CloudWatch log is now comparing the point in time data to one in last week that I have selected and saying that this one is a new pattern that is discovered. It has happened 34 times compared to the last time, like last week. That's pretty neat. And you can really dive deep into errors and whatnot using this kind of pattern recognition. Mike also wanted to showcase a feature called Live Tail. Now, CloudWatch Logs Live Tail feature can help you quickly troubleshoot incidents by viewing a streaming list of new log events as they get ingested. It's exactly like a Unix command tail minus f. If you have ever been into a Unix system, you would have definitely used tail minus f. And CloudWatch log live tail is exactly that. Here also, you would select, say for example, a log group, and then you would start apply filters, or you could start right from the top right hand corner, and at that point in time, the CloudWatch is tailing that log. And if there is something happening, the CloudWatch is going to stream just those logs for you. As you can see, the CloudWatch is now tailing that particular log group. All you have to do right now is troubleshoot from here. And if you want to cancel the live tail, simply click cancel. The DevOps engineer was super happy with everything that he was seeing. He thanked Mike, and Mike felt happy about his skills. Now, Mike wanted to go and get a coffee. At that time, the DevOps team, the team lead, again called Mike and said that they have just now pushed a new release to the production and they are not sure if all the dependencies are working. Mike was like, not again. This time, Mike said the DevOps team, all of them, to join the same WebEx. And what did Mike do? Mike went to the application, Mike went to the CloudWatch dashboard, and Mike went to the application signals and the service map. Now, the service map is something that application signals discovers automatically for you. You don't have to do anything for it. And even it discovers the dependencies. So Mike went to the service map to check the overall lay of the land of his application, which is the pet clinic. And he was looking at it and he immediately found out that there is a new call that is being sent to SQS. And Mike was not aware of this. Mike was thinking, maybe this is that call to the new feature that was deployed. Mike clicked on that and immediately he could see that the latency is kind of bad, but he could also see that the errors are there, about 6.3% of the total requests for the service customer service. Mike clicked on that and it again gave him the three widgets which covers all the four golden signals. And there he could see that the errors are like, consistently happening. Mike clicked on and he could see that it is happening on the purge queue, essentially. Mike clicked on that particular fault and he could now concentrate on that particular trace for that point in time. He clicked on it and then Mike was looking at what was happening and he could see that the calls are coming in and then there is a call going into this queue. Mike scrolled down and then there is the issue with the queue, clicked on it, and Mike was checking for the exceptions. And as soon as Mike was looking at the exceptions, he could find out that the purge queue operation is allowed once in every 60 seconds. Essentially, they released a feature into production without considering the volume of the traffic in production. Mike told the DevOps team lead to make sure that they correct this and then go and redeploy this once again. Mike felt really happy with what he was doing. Now, Mike stepped out. He wanted to get his coffee. At that time, his manager, Steven, called him and asked a question. The leadership is considering not to renew the costly third party container monitoring tool. And Steven asked Mike if there is any AWS native solution that can help to monitor all the container workloads from one single place. Mike replied, oh, yeah, absolutely, there is a solution. So Stephen asked Mike if he can join a leadership call and spare a few minutes to dive deep into that. Mike said, yeah, absolutely. Why not? Now, what did Mike do? Mike joined the bridge. At that time, Stephen said, hey, thank you, Mike. Thanks for joining. We have the entire leadership team here. Would you mind sharing your screen? Mike shared his screen and then he went to Container Insights. And Mike started explaining how Amazon Container Insights automatically collects the detailed infrastructure telemetry and container logs for Amazon EKS clusters. As you can rightly see, we have about 14 clusters all across different accounts. And also, this could all be part of that cross-account observability. From different accounts, you can view all the clusters in one single place. And the health of the clusters is color coded. So red, of course, bad. Green, absolutely good. Now, what are these two colors? One of the leadership team members asked Mike. Now, Mike explained. This lighter blue, it simply means that the health of the application or the cluster is pretty good. And the dark blue, it means that there is something going on, you don't have an alert on it. And now Mike was asking, or rather, one of the leadership team members was asking, but these two, green, red, we understand why the blue color. Then Mike answered, the threshold information from AWS best practice alarms that are collected over hundreds of thousands of clusters is allowing customers to understand the health of the cluster, even if they have not configured any manual alarms. The leadership team thought that's pretty cool. Now, Mike went on to explain that this landing page, a cluster state summary, has control plane health. It gives the top node health. It gives the top per memory utilization and all the cluster view in single place. Mike clicked on one of the containers and one of the clusters, and then showed that if at all there is an alarm that is configured, that alarm is going to be shown right there. In this case, it is all about a particular alarm, which is pod memory utilization over pod limit. And as you can rightly see, Container Insights captures over 50 metrics, and all of that can be converted into an alarm as well. Also, the Container Insights has a direct integration with application signals. You can go back and forth, which means you can do inside out monitoring and outside in monitoring, all the way from your client's perspective and all the way from your application infrastructure perspective. And that's pretty resourceful. It is all opening up possibilities. The leadership team was super happy with what Mike was about to present. Stephen thanked Mike, and Mike decided to step away for his much-needed coffee break. At that time, as he was walking back to his desk, a project manager called Mike and said that her team does have some AI ML workloads and they are using some of the latest and greatest NVIDIA GPUs. And the team needs a monitoring solution for faster problem isolation and troubleshooting. She also said that she's on a tight budget and asked Mike if he could help track the cost of her container workloads. Mike was like, huh, I've heard about that before, but not sure if I have got a working example for that, especially for that cost thing. Mike decided to add his manager Steven to that call and asked Steven, hey Steven, would you mind helping this amazing lady?
Of course I could. So then Steven's gonna come on in and he's gonna show Mike, okay, or this project manager that Mike was talking to, like, okay, there's definitely ways we can help you understand, are you one utilizing those resources really well, and what does that look like? How's your project taking advantage of this, and then what is the cost associated with that? So so Stephen got the project information from them. They said, "Oh, we're part of Team A. We're Team A. We've been running these experiments. We run these batch workloads. And we want to know, are we over, utilizing our services? Like the instances that we have, are we underutilizing them? Like, does it look like a pretty good balance? So, first thing that Steven's going to go in there and do is he's going to go back to CloudWatch. He's going to look in there and say, you know what? I know because I've enabled enhanced container insights that I now have GPU information for my workloads that are running in this cluster, right? So for the workloads running in this cluster, I can go in and get some good information on how well they're utilizing these services. What does that look like? So I'll pay attention here to this workload because the project manager went ahead and said, hey, this is we're running one of these now. He's okay, so let me go look, and I can see right away the project's been running for a little bit, and just at a glance I can see now my cluster went from fairly idle most of the time to it's getting more usage. It's definitely getting more utilization. They're actually using 99% of the GPUs right now. I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty heavy usage. Should should they be considering to offer more because they're not fully using the memory? Let's go look at it a little bit. Let's look at the history a little bit, see if we can see what's going on here. And it looks like this workload, when I come down here, okay, so I'm looking at the CPU utilization, that spikes up a little bit. Let's change it over. If we look over the GPU utilization, they can look at that and they can see, oh, look, memory utilization went up for a while here, but then the GPU didn't. All right, so I can kind of get a look and get a flavor for how does this workload behave, and get an understanding, based on the metrics that I now have that is coming directly from those NVIDIA chips into Container Insights using Enhanced Container Insights. you know, how does this workload behave, and am I being efficient with how it works? And I look at this and I say, well, there's maybe some room for improvement. Why don't we look at, if we look at the high level, then it's hard to tell because we do end up using a lot of the GPU. So we really end up pushing the system pretty hard. So maybe we're being efficient. Let's go in again, look at the performance. If we look at the performance monitoring, we come in here and we can see, okay, at the cluster level, we've already been looking at. What does it look like at the node level? Let's look at, these pods are running somewhere. What do those look like? How does their memory utilization look? We can see the CPU is actually not too bad. It does spike up occasionally, but overall it's 18%. Memory's running right around the middle. That's pretty healthy for most of the workloads we want. As somebody who's in charge of the infrastructure, I think that's good. And yeah, CPU utilization does shoot up at given times, but really we end up in that 75% and around 60% on the memory for that. So from an efficiency perspective, I can now go back to that project manager and say, you know what, you're probably running in a pretty healthy space with the units we have. And that would make it so that you can have a little bit of push on these, but not so bad. So I can now go back based on the data that I have and say this is probably pretty good. But just to make sure, I'm going to dig in a little further and go look at a pod level. I want to make sure that the workload that I actually cared about was the one that was using most of the resources. So if I come in here and I look, I can say, they said they were on Team A, and I know they're doing the Spark EMR workloads. It looks like most of the heavy lift here is in that space, at least on the CPU. And I go down and I can look at the metrics again. And if I look at the GPU utilization, it's the same thing. So yeah, they're my main consumer of these resources. So I can have some confidence that it's not somebody else on the cluster that's using those resources, but rather it's that team, it's that project team. So now I can go back to that project manager and say, from a utilization standpoint, I think you're pretty good. You know, so Stephen's able to go back, say, hey, this is working well. We think you have a balanced workload here. So let's address your cost perspective, right? So maybe you're using the right amount of resources for the sake of running the workload well, but how are you doing on your spend? So then for that, I can take them over and I can say, okay, if I want to look at that, maybe I'll get access to the split data, the split cost data. And that comes out of our billing dashboard. And let me show you real quick. So what ends up happening is you end up setting up within your billing dashboard. You can come into billing management. So like I can get here, maybe I go here to billing and cost management. I can scroll all the way down to my cost management preferences. And I make sure that when I do this, that I have a split cost allocation data enabled. Now, Stephen knows this is enabled. He turned it on. He turned it on a while back, and we know that we have that available for our Kubernetes services. He's also created export data reports so that he's exporting that data. And the reason that's going to be relevant here is because now when Stephen wants to go in and talk to his project manager about that data, he can do things like query it with Athena. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to go straight over, query that data with Athena. He's pulled that data in, created a view. He runs that report, and now he can get a sense of, okay, what kind of data can I get it? Or I can tell, how much how time they're using in hours. I can do it for the vCPU, for the memory. I can look at what pods are actually spending that money, right? So I can, so if the money's adding up to a lot, I can see which pods are the ones that are spending the most money, and are they of value to me, right? And I get this, and I filter this data. There's additional things that you can do. But for Stephen, he felt like this report gave him everything he needed to know. He knows it's running EKS, knows what month and year that this pod was running. You get a sense of usage in kind of hours, how much time they've been going, and then their costs, right? And I look at it, and right here, Steven starts looking at it and saying, you know, you're not spending that much money here. I think you're probably gonna be okay on budget. When I look at these numbers, none of them are really big numbers. But I said, you know what? Just to make sure, probably okay doesn't really work for most project managers. They need to know for sure. I said, you know what? I also have a visualization for this. So I can take this data and I can put it in our BI tool, which is QuickSight. And I've created it so that I can get a view into that data. And now I can start graphing it and seeing, well, what does this look like from an expense perspective? Who's spending money and where? So I basically I've got this here. I've got those pods listed out by their ARNs, and I can see again, it's not adding up to a lot of money. These numbers, these figures aren't very big, so that's a good sign. And I'm not getting anybody that stands out as uniquely spending a lot of money. When I look at this chart, they're all pretty equal. So okay, no surprises on who's spending the money where. So and again, this visualization I thought did a good job of really showing how even the spread is for these pods. And this is the result of, when I'm talking to the project manager, they're like, yeah, you know what? It is a pretty even job. We try to split it across the pods. I'm like, well, you're doing a great job because when I look at your spend, it's pretty uniform across there. And then I can come down and I can do some summary calculations or things of that nature. And in this case, I'll bring you down to this little total cost here. The total cost so far for the month, they're going to be $21, $21.12. So I look at them and say, so how many of these are you going to run? They think, we're going to run 3, 4 of this. It's like, well, you got $150 to spend on this? I'm like, yeah, we're good. So, okay, we're within your budget. You're being pretty efficient with the hardware. So now Stephen can go and he can answer that question for them. The project manager gets to walk away understanding how their spend is, and they can do it at multiple levels, whether they're looking at the spend at the node level, whether they're looking at it from, pod execution or understanding an overall workload and how that job functions. And that lets them get a good sense of what their bills are like. And that's it. So Stephen gets to walk away. Maybe I'll go join Mike for a coffee break or something. He gets to go do his thing, and everybody is understanding their bill and what's happening in their environment. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Lucy.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for Mike walk us through how they unlocked observability, not just from a troubleshooting perspective, finding root cause, but also definitely showcase that observability is more than just fixing the issues, right? And we can also dive into the cost of these pods and then be able to help the project manager to better utilize these containers. So definitely thanks for sharing that. And I hope the audience and you pick a skill set, a new feature capabilities that you can take away to your day-to-day basis as well. So just to close off here, we also have a couple of great resources that we would like for you to take away. So what do where do you go from now? And all of these capabilities and features we mentioned, you can use one of these workshops or accelerators to try out. So first, I would recommend start with our One Observability workshop, and this is a public workshop you can go through on your own pace. There's there's session by session. There's particular areas that you're interested in, whether it's application performance monitoring, whether it's enhanced container insights. You can definitely select and pick in different sections that you want to build out and test out yourself. One note here is these workshops can also be hosted by your account teams. So reach out to your AWS account teams that they can host these workshops for you. The only difference is if you go do it by yourself, then it will be you will have some bills occurring on your own account. If it is hosted from the AWS account team, AWS account team can give you temporary accounts to access to these workshops. And also best practices, right? If you just want to understand that what are prescriptive guidance from AWS, what are observability best practices, you can go from there, as well as observability accelerators and skill builder for observability. And these are various different library templates, CloudFormation templates, CDKs that you can go into and quickly spin up to implement observabilities in your environment. So these are great resources to check it out and to best fit your needs. And you can start with that to explore our observability offerings and solutions. And with that, I would like to thank all for your time today. And here, please do keep in touch. If provide us feedbacks. We do have a survey out that we would love to hear whether this session is valuable for you, whether there's additional topics that you would like us to cover in our future sections around container observability. Any feedback is welcome. So with that being said, thanks Arun, thanks Stephen for the awesome demo here, and thanks everybody. Have a great day.